Yeah, I've gone live on YouTube before, but it said creating event now. I just clicked on that. I thought it was just regular live, but it opened at Google Hangouts. So now I'm on Google Hangouts on air also, and it's doing it live on YouTube. I, so it kind of came as a surprise to me that they do that. It's September 28th after Nevermore. It's 8:27 p.m. Nevermore Edits is the name of the writing critique group that I've been involved, mostly more than not involved with for about a year. But there were a few months I didn't go, and then now I'm back, and I'm been going regularly. The last 3 weeks, I was the only person. I think it's 3 weeks. I was the only person who submitted a piece for critique. So it's been kind of weird. Weird for me because it's like almost been like one-on-one bombardment type. I feel. Talking a little bit about. I didn't have this kind of critique for years. What I've been submitting a couple chapters at a time, and I'll probably my first Glovic book. The novel idea has been in my head for 28 years. Start and stop, start and stop, start and stop, start and stop. Rewrite. So this is probably the 9th rewrite, and been editing it as I go. And I think the main consensus is that it's my style is getting better, but it's not ready to be published because I haven't done multiple edits of the same stuff. It's been rewrite and edited. So it's a little bit disheartening for me because I really don't want to shelf this again. But it would be best, I think, for Global Tales if I shelf this, the first novel, yeah, and learn more of what it takes to be a writer. Because even though I've been reading a lot of books about publishing, well, I use present tense, past tense. I haven't read a book about publishing in 3 or 4 years. But I did, and I've been saying that I'm writing a novel, and I've been kind of putting myself out there a little bit more. Gradually increased. I've been putting myself out there, but I'm not really a writer. I am, but I'm not, because I just haven't written stuff, and the advice to read or to write, you have to read a lot. And taking that to heart because I've always had the excuse, oh, I'm too tired. Oh, and my eyes are bad. I don't like to read and fall asleep easy and all this stuff. That's been my excuse. And so I just started audiobooks last week because I really do need to. That's some advice I got from Nevermore last week. I need to read, and they were like, "Well, audiobooks count. That counts as reading." So I just started, and I think the reason why this hits me so hard is because, well, I've been working on it for so long, but I haven't been, and it's like I've been half-assed working on it, or quarter-assed, or eighth-assed working on it. I haven't really worked on it 100% ever. Well, I do short bursts. I did a short burst, and now it's just I edit what I've written already, which pretty much is me reading through it and changing a few words here, adding a line, like really short stuff. And it's not cutting it. I didn't. Oh, what I was about to say a while ago is I didn't get this critique. I didn't find a writing group because you need a. I think I really do believe face-to-face writing is deep. It's more than it's more necessary than it's given credit for. I mean, it's. I'm sure it's possible to be a good writer and never talk to anybody or never show a video writing or any of that. But I don't think it's very probable, and I didn't find that until last year. I mean, even the last time somebody read my Globic Tales, I mean, the whole time I was married, and I don't know if my wife read any of it. Was in high school, and that Leaper, that's his name, James Leaper. Leaper would if he saw the current version, he'd be like, "What is this?" Because it's so different from the first book. And to be honest, I don't know if he read that because when I was, I guess, 16 or something, I finally had something printed off, and I don't remember if it followed the same timeline all the way through as the current iteration of Red Knights does. Right? I think it did. I think it first, from the being middle and end were the same, but you wouldn't recognize it if he actually read that. I don't know. So I didn't get. I haven't had a lot of responses. Every once in a while, I've had little responses on Globic stuff that I post online, but I haven't had a lot of responses. So now I'm at the position of becoming a good author. Like Z said at the meeting tonight, she was talking about Kliss. Kliss is the second main character. It's like all the ingredients are there, but you don't have the recipe. Actually, she might have been talking about Laura. Yeah, because I know more about. In just the few pages that Laura's in, she's more well developed than the more. I mean, Kliss has got more page time, but she's not as developed. I mean, that's So I there's a lot of work when you do a lot of there. Okay, the character profile sheet. This is another tangent. Jack told me about the character profile sheet. I don't know, a few months ago, and I did it on a character that's not even going to be in this novel. I mean, I wrote a few flashback sections, which I'm not going to put it in the novel now. But I did the character worksheet on her, so I know. I mean, because the point that they made, I've never really thought about, is even if it doesn't appear in your book, in your writing anywhere, you've got to know the answer to these things. Because I mean, how our workshop sessions work, there's a neutral question, which they'll ask you a question, doesn't have an opinion. They'll ask the author a question, and it could be any yes or no, or it could be can you explain this? Or, it can be just any question. And then the next section is permission opinions. They say, can I give you opinion based on this? And then the author's allowed to say yes. Yeah, okay, you can give me opinion, but can't really respond to it. You're just going to get the opinions. And when they ask you questions, months ago, on somewhere writing, and be like, well, why does he do this? And my response was, I don't know. Since I don't know, I didn't think about that. Was my response to so many questions. The point was made that even if it's not in your writing, you need to know. Authors need to know a little bit of backstory, a little bit of read between the lines, because what you're doing is you have to make the reader understand a story, and if there's any question, I'm thinking, if in the distant future sometime people are fans of Philip Flint, and they come to book signing and they're like, oh, I love it when Mike does such and such, but why did he do that? I can't respond with I don't know. I've got to have a little bit of a story, a little bit of an explanation, and the character profile sheet helps you get that because it gives like a description, background, family, it covers a lot of gamuts. And my point here, I guess, even though I didn't think it really have a point, is I need to do that on pretty much all my characters. Well, there are secondary people who are just going to show up. I don't know if they'd be secondary or tertiary. They're just minors that I don't need to do that on. But for most of my characters, I need to do a profile sheet. And so even if I don't write about this, I need to know it. And that's I can't. You can't. The author cannot head off every question. Be prepared for every question. At least be prepared for most questions about your writing. Big one. What is the theme? And when they asked me that last week, I haven't really thought about that. Now, an author should think about that, and it should be pretty clear what the theme is, or pretty moderately clear. At least half the people who read it should know what you're getting at. There was a time, there was a time, and I've hence rewritten this out and taken this out. But there was a time when the theme, if I had to get one, was something. Can a Christian live in a non-Christian? Can a Christian live in a world where Jesus Christ never lived? Because that's what it was about. For a while, I was so strong in Christianity that that's what I wanted to explore. Because at the time, this was before reading the main character, David Orth. He was named David Orth. He was raised as a Christian. He was living on a Christian life, and he slipped into talking about it and everything. And Glob, Jesus Christ never came to Glob. The major religion there is, it's more like Judaism than anything that I've encountered. But I say that, and I need to do research, because I really, I don't know as much about Judaism as I should. And to write what I need to write what I know. That's another. That's a big piece of advice that I haven't really. I read about things I don't know about. I mean, I've seen a couple times in movies. You know, the idea that Mike slips into his like sleeper agent type roles. What happened in the because as I have it presented now, he looks at his hands and they're older than he remembers. So there's maybe a decade or 15 years that he didn't remember. The last thing he remembers is he was in college. He was 21 years old last time he remembers. So he might be in his mid 30s now. He doesn't even know because there's that gap in his memory, that hole. Well, that I've got to know what happened in that hole. I don't need to write it now. I can write it later when he learns it. But something happened that's made him where he's a take charge guy. And when he just all of a sudden, something that he does is he like, okay, for instance, on this last chapter, there's a scene where he's an escaped slave and the irregular army is under attack. Bomb goes off, disables the general and kills the second in command. I need to talk about the chain of command because Mike steps in and takes over. Why does he take over? You know, I've got to make that a little bit more obvious. It's because he has this sleeper agent, this leadership that's down, but he's also like a fighter. It's almost like one of my inspirations for that idea is actually the Bourne Identity. And I didn't bring that up tonight when it was pointed out to me that that I need to make some kind of transition, something to show, because he goes from this passive, mild mannered, kind of not really heroic guy into being like a leader, like a fighter or whatever. And there's no transition, so it's really awkward. It's like, who is this? What, the readers, it'll confuse the readers. I don't remember what show Ryan mentioned now, but probably send a message later now. When the main character, when he was kind of a sleeper agent, he had something in his head that when they triggered it, you could see it. It was he vibrated or he kind of did something, and there was a transition. So you're watching this, and I was watching it in my head when he was talking about it. There's like this transition, so it makes the viewer more clarifies that, oh, there's something to him besides this, I mean, so I don't know if I really have a physical transition like that because that doesn't feel right, but there should be a word or two or three given there about how there's a transit. He knows that there's something about him that makes him into this leader thing, and he knows that it must be in that decade that he doesn't remember. But because I think if it at least somewhere in the narrative or his internal dialogue says that that he feels like a different person sometimes. Something about that, it would clarify it for the reader. Bottom line about Red Knights, which would be the Jordan Cycle Volume 1 of Global Tales. Bottom line is, I probably will shelf it and keep working on Globic Tales, but not editing, not re-editing something written before. Keep working on myself as a writer, doing research, and I'm just write something new. I'm just something totally different. I'm just don't edit down what I've done. Just new. But it can still be globic, and I might need to probably think about it even more. Might just skip it. Just start the Jordan cycle pretty much where Red Knights ended, or as it is so far where it ends. Just temporarily. So this main character, I might even rename him again. No, I like Michael Ignatius. Michael Ignatius Smith is what I'm calling him now. Michael, and he would have that name. See, I know why he's called that, but that's just the first step in my character profile. He was adopted, and how he was in. It was July of 1977. He was in a basket. In this, in my head, what I'm seeing is kind of like the beginning of the movie Super Mario Brothers, when he's in a basket and it's raining. And you see a shadowy figure carry the basket up the door, knock on the door, and then walk away. See, and then I need to know who that figure was, which I don't even know. But who was it that brought this infant to an orphanage and dropped him off in Northeast Kansas? And I've been thinking a little bit about backstory just recently about that orphanage, because I patterned it off of where I went to college, because the history of St. Monica's School was St. Monica's College was school for girls, but before that it was St. Monica's orphanage, and so they still had like some of the facilities that had been shut down for 20 years. They hadn't had kids in there since the early 50s, because they've been doing college thing. It's college, so they still have a building, but it's not in use. And when the infant is dropped off, which he has a letter with him, and they can't read the letter because the ink's all smudged. So the nuns, they take him in, and they named him Michael Ignatius because it's really that's really a churchy sounding name. I kind of like that because Michael was the light bearer. No, Lucifer was light bearer. Michael was the soldier angel. He was the shield bearer, I think is what he's called. And Ignatius, see, I used to know the origin in the church, what the origin of Ignatius was. But this explains why DHS wasn't involved, and because this was the late 70s, things weren't as regulated as they are now. Now, if a baby, every baby, it's all automatically in the system. So these nuns just took mercy on. I don't know if it's called mercy. They just took pity. That's what I wanted to write. All right, they took pity on this infant, and they decided they were going to keep him there. And he was under the radar for like 3 years, and finally, Department of Human Services came in, and they were like, "You've got this kid living in the old orphanage. Where is he from? What's he?" So they had to make it legal. And one of the nuns, her last name was Smith. Nuns can't adopt, or maybe they can. I need to look it up. I don't know. But her sister, who also lived in the town, her sister legally adopted Mike, but Mike was still raised by the nuns there on St. Monica's campus. And he was raised, he went to a grade school, he went to high school. And when he was in high school, the board of trustees, the people who were in charge of St. Monica's College, they, I don't know how it goes through. See, I need to look up that too, how it's elected to go from a girls' college to a co-ed college. And the building that was the orphanage that Mike had been living in, they decided to turn it into a dormitory. And so just through transit, Mike barely had to apply to go to college there. And he actually ends up living in the room they grew up in. I mean, well, that was kind of planned that he would live in that room. And so every room was turned into dorm rooms right around his bedroom, and so that's cool. But see, this story that I've been telling just now, it's backstory. It's not stuff that's going to be written down, but it's this kind of thing that I need to know about. So basically, I need to do a lot more. I need to do a lot of writing. Actually, I need to get writing by hand, because typing is it's slow. You have a tendency, or I have a tendency, of stopping and backspacing and spelling right. But pen and paper, which, see, okay, this iteration, the one that I'm editing now, comes from, it is about 3 or 4 years old, but I wrote it on paper first. I had 2 spirals, number 1, number 2, easily. And I hand wrote it, then I typed it, and as I was typing it, I did some editing stuff, and then I edited it from there. But I need to do that again. I need to do some handwriting and write more background notes, background on characters. When I mention someone, I don't need to tell their story right there, because I don't need to info dump. I need to get away from info dump. But write the story. Write the whole story, but not put it in the novel. Doesn't need to be there. Maybe. Some places, some information feels right and is right for a novel. Some information is really not right for a novel. But I'm learning. I'm learning that. I'm learning a lot of things. It's disheartening that Red Knights will have to be shelved. But I think my tool belt. Stephen King talks about a tool. I think I read On Writing, but it's been years. I can find that book, read it again. I might get now. That I have the audio. I'll see if I can download it. But I don't think it was tool belt. I think it was tool chest was his analogy. And you use the right tool for the job. And I'm getting tools from Nevermore edits. Getting tools from Nevermore that will make into a really good, I could use to make a good book, good novel. But this, I don't think this is the novel. I really don't think this is the one. Just, it's not feeling right anymore. What I should do instead of putting Glog out there is I should write some short stories. I should get a critique on a short story, get a critique on another short story, because eventually that'll make me a good writer. And then take those tools and write a novel. That's what I should do. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna short stories until, but I don't know how long, and then write a novel. Excuse me. To go with that tool chest thing, I remember a story from On Writing when you talk about his dad's toolbox. Box. These are real tools, in the toolbox around. But instead of saying, "Can you go in the garage and give me my 3/8 socket?" he'd say, "Bring me my toolbox." When he was working on a project, he'd bring the whole box with him and then get the right tool out. So it's what I'm learning now. I put into me and goes with me wherever I go. Whenever I write a novel, the tools that I get will be in me. They'll be my tools. It won't be. I think what I'm doing I'm editing as I go. Something Ryan and Z both mentioned. I think you might have brought it up in Z Dovetailed, the opinion tonight, that I'm getting better, but it's like chapter 1 and 2 will be pretty good. Chapter 3 and 4 will be a little bit better. Chapter 5 and 6 might be a little bit better because of I'm getting feedback and I'm editing as a little bit, and that disjointed voice, disjointed tonality, everything's going to be off. And so I really have to get tools before I write, and before I settle on another novel, before I settle on Red Knights even. Got to get my toolbox, my author's toolbox. It's after 9 o'clock. It just turned 9 o'clock, so I'm gonna gotta eat something. I don't think I've eaten today. I had granola bars. Those peanut butter granola. Peanut bar. I don't know. Maybe they're not granola. The granola, I think, are just the hard ones. The bars from employee dining room at work. So yeah, I should eat something. I don't really feel like it. I'm not really hungry. I'm having a down day. I think I've been really exhausted, and that takes a toll on you. My first thought this morning when I got up at 4:30, my first thought was, "Man, I hope I can take a nap after work." I did. Came home. I was home at 3:30. Turned on my alarm clock for 2 hours, and I didn't sleep the whole 2 hours because I woke up and I put a towel on my face, and I had my meditation YouTube channel on. So I heard some of the talking. So I didn't sleep the whole 2 hours, but I didn't get up for 2 whole hours. And that helped, but not a lot. I just can't keep myself up like last night. Last night I stayed up pretty late watching season 8 of The Walking Dead on Netflix. I guess they just added it this week. I don't know. It's the first time I noticed it. And I'm a season behind because I saw on Facebook today that season 9 starts on AMC in like 9 days. And I think it's probably Sunday night still. But so I'm a season behind because, well, I don't have cable, I have streaming. And I forced myself to stay awake for, I think I went all the way through the 3rd episode. And I was so exhausted. I mean, my eyes were teared up. It wasn't sad. I was just so exhausted. It reminded me of a little kid who's afraid they're going to miss out. And so they force themselves to stay awake. Becky used to do this all the time. When he was little, he would run around, and this is a good example right here where there's carpet and there's tile. And he would go from our living room to our kitchen, and there were so many times we'd find him asleep, half laying in, half laying out, right in the middle, because he would go until sleep. Or sometimes he wouldn't be on the couch, but his hands would. He'd just fall asleep because he'd be playing and he didn't want to miss out, or even at bedtime. When we got a toddler bed, we would often hear because he'd be in there playing in the middle of the night. He'd get out of his bed and be on the floor playing. And that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. I force myself to stay awake just because. I mean, Netflix will be there tomorrow. Be there the next day. I'll be there Monday, my day off. I mean, but it made me so exhausted today. I mean, besides just my ankle hurting so bad, I was just in a bad place. And one of my buddies at work said, "Are you feeling okay?" I was like, "No." So, actually, I think what I'm going to do is grab a handful of those banana chips, and that'll be my dinner. And go to bed.